You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Johannes Ekström of Avatar. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Hey. Hello, everybody. Welcome back, or if it's your first time, welcome to the ToneMob.com podcast, the show about guitar tone and the people behind it. As you are, or if you're new, you're not, aware, I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today I have a man who has cost us all, thousands of dollars, Mr. Andy Martin of Pro Guitar Shop fame. What's going on, man?
Hey, Blake. Good to be here.
Ironically, we're in the same town, but somehow it's easier to do remote things sometimes because you can just sit down and just do your thing instead of setting up the rig or whatever.
I know, in this modern age, it's just better just to do something over the internet, obviously.
which is kind of unfortunate in some ways, but yeah, we'll hook up at one point or another.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So I think people pretty much know who you are based on what I just said, but I guess we can get right into it. Sure. And maybe let's start off. I think probably the best place to start off is who you are and what you kind of do in the gear world, even though everyone already knows, and I feel like it should be self-explanatory, but maybe we'll just give that a brief thing and we can get into the meat and potatoes.
Sure. Well, I pretty much film my life daily and try to show everyone the newest guitar gear and stuff that's not readily available at every store. So if I shoot a video almost every day, try to make it as accurate as I can and so they could get some reliable or some accurate representation of the gear and just do my best and have fun and just do what I do, which is play guitar, which is what I've been doing since I was 12, and so that's kind of the gist of it. And I've been doing it since I want to say 2006 or 7, back when there was only a few guys doing it, and luckily I'm still at it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. That's pretty awesome. And you were definitely one of the first people I found doing demos. Probably the only one I watched for a good long time. Not that there weren't a couple other guys maybe doing it around the same time, but it was just wow, there's so many videos.
Yeah.
just kept going, and this was probably a couple years after you started. I'm just kind of trying to go into my own time frame, probably in 2008 or so.
Okay.
So yeah, it was there was quite a backlog for me to go through at that point. But I guess what would probably be the next best place to go is give us your musical backstory. What made you start playing, and then kind of how did that lead to working for PGS and doing what you're doing now? How did that whole thing come about?
Yeah, well, I said, I started kind of early and always just wanted to play guitar. I think my dad was obviously a big influence, and he got me listening to bands like Led Zeppelin and stuff at an early age. And I remember seeing that film, The Song Remains the Same, and that was the first concert film I'd ever seen, and I was just hooked, and I kind of never looked back after that, and played in bands like we all do in high school and stuff, and then the past couple of years I was in LA, and I started meeting these guys from Portland, and actually, I was working at Full Tone for a couple of years, and
Oh, okay.
just as an assembler, but not glamorous, but it was good. Obviously it was a good thing. It pointed me in the right direction, and then so yeah,
Yeah, you,
two or three of those guys were from Portland, which is kind of funny why they want to come to LA, and they were telling me how great Portland was, and I'm like, I want to get out of here. Let's check out Portland, and so. Yeah, I just moved up there on a whim, and actually, Pro Guitar Shop was the first job I found, and I was just working in shipping and and just packing everything and doing some bookkeeping, and then uh, it was kind of like you said, there weren't too many guys doing demos, and we had all these brands, like ZVAX and stuff that weren't really at your local stores, and so. The owner was just like, can you do this? So I guess I skipped a point where I went to film school in Orange, the city of
oh,
Orange, and
that could be crucial.
yeah. Yeah. So but I wasn't really a big film buff. I was more into sound, and so uh, after the boss Aaron found out I did have a degree and I was a musician. He's like, well, he's looking at the few available demos that were out there, and he's like, can you do something like this? And I was like, sure, and so that was kind of our goal to just do that, but way better, and use like real editing and buy great gear and just do it right, because at that point it was just people with their camcorder, and you hear the acoustic strumming more than of the electric guitar more than the amp or something, so
Right.
and then you get all that weird compression from cam mics and stuff, so then, yeah, I just started out as just a test, and there's, I think, maybe a few early ones still floating around, but of those early test videos, but, like, I don't know, well, just kept them up for nostalgia, but they're not the greatest sound quality.
Right.
And so, yeah, it just turned into, what it is now, and I originally didn't plan on being in front of the camera. It was just like, I really wanted to just play and turn some knobs, but when you have, and then when you start demoing amps and guitars, you really want to, obviously with the guitars you want to show someone playing it, and so yeah, I really was, like studying film. I was always trying to be behind the scenes, not in front of the camera. So it was kind of a weird twist, but I rolled with it, and that's kind of where I ended up.
Right.
Just doing it over and over again, eventually not doing shipping anymore, and
doing they don't have you packing the boxes. Okay,
no.
Hey man, we got to get this guy back to packing boxes. He was really good at it. Come on. That's crazy. That's really interesting. That, I mean, because based on some of the stuff I would have seen, it almost looks like you would have been kind of picked to do that, like almost like if they put a Craigslist ad out, this is what you would be looking for. So it's interesting just kind of to see that it's just all a perfect kind of coincidence of everything.
Yeah, and it really is. I mean, it's I'm really lucky that it's a kind of the job is a perfect blend of the things that I've always been interested in. Just music and editing. It's like I love recording, and I've always done that ever since starting out with the 4-track. And
Oh yes,
and it just that's always what I've been into. So yeah, it's a lot of work editing. I mean, I'm editing more than I'm playing during the day. So it's a lot of people just think I'm just coming in and playing and going out, but I love it, every aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, that was my assumption before I started talking to people. Like, oh no, he does all the heavy lifting too, like not just the in front of the camera. Well, I mean, the heavy lifting is really the playing, but yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize that you're pretty much in charge of the entire process from the time the mics go hot to it getting uploaded.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't want to exclude the people that do, help me out. I mean, like I've always had, we have, people that take pictures for, the website and everything. So luckily I haven't had to take all the glam shots and stuff, although I've been forced to a couple times, and, but yeah, I mean, and then, like I said, it was really a one man show from the at the start of it, but, luckily I've had some help with, doing a little more digging into the companies and the products, just so I could kind of keep going day to day. If I were to like, spend every day like researching every little thing, I wouldn't be able to do the output I do.
Right,
So,
right. So is it? I mean, you said earlier on that you're doing a video almost every day. You yourself are putting out a video like 5 days a week, basically?
Well, it's almost, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely recording something every day. I'm in the booth every day. I'm editing every day. So it's sometimes, these little bit more elaborate, things take a little bit longer. But yeah, we try not to really go too long, because I mean, of course, I would love to take, a week on one thing, and then, now that there's no limits on YouTube length, I see people doing 25-minute demos. So, but I like to keep it kind of short and sweet, like, because I think that's just, and people, I don't know if everyone has the attention span, these days to sit and listen for 20 minutes, but I mean, I don't know, maybe people would, I don't know.
I don't know. I think people would probably be interested in seeing you break down something technically, but when you have the volume that you guys have to output, it's just I think it's pretty well understood that that's just not feasible.
Yeah, yeah. At this point, it's who knows? Maybe down the line we'll, you know, um, get some, get some people helping out in the editing department or something like that, and but you never know. It's I think there's definitely room to grow and what we're doing. That's another thing. I always try to keep it fresh and not get stuck. And that's why I didn't. That's why they put me in front of the camera and instead of staying behind it and pointing at a pedal. So
Right, right. Cool, man. All right. Well, I want to switch gears a little bit.
yeah.
I mean, everybody knows you do demos, and we could talk about the art and kind of the technique behind doing all that stuff, but I don't think that's why people tuned into this. So I think I kind of want to dig into like you personally. Like, I know you've played in bands on various levels, and you have certain musical preferences. Like, but you encompass so many styles in your demos. It's hard to be like, well, and Andy, he's a Zeppelin fan, or he's a grunge guy, or no, I don't know. Like, so like, what do you play when you play with bands, and like, what's that like for you? What's your real passion in music?
Well, yeah. I mean, oddly enough, I haven't really joined another band since I moved to Portland. But if I were to do another project, I mean, I've like I said, I always have that sort of Zeppelin roots, but I really dig like the more like riff based music, not not like very. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Like just the real
not
like
not like Shreddy McShredderson type of
exactly.
thing.
Yeah. I was trying to say it in a way, but yeah, I've never been like sort of a virtuoso player, and it's more like I'm happy playing a rhythm most of the time, especially just playing. I usually am like the main or the only guitar player in the band, because I'm just the way I've grown up playing. I like to kind of do rhythm and lead sort of together, and that's all the people that I grew up listening to did the same, and I just find that every time I try to play with a two guitar band, you always have that sort of dueling mentality, and I would hate to just sit there and just play leads for the whole song. I mean, that would just, I don't know, I would feel like I'm not carrying the song, but back to styles, yeah, I definitely have a more of a roots in like 70s kind of style of music, but I definitely like to switch it up and and not just go so generic with it, like I'm not just going to come out with, like a song that sounds like Foghat or something, like I
Right.
definitely know that's come and gone. And like, I really appreciate like stuff that like Josh Homme's done, where he's a huge Billy Gibbons fan, and, but he also likes, he grew up on, Misfits and stuff. So I always use him as an example because, well, mainly I would, love to play with him, but
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, he's like one of the few players today that I think is kind of taking that, old school rock, influence, but like totally putting it in a new direction. But it's still really great, like guitar riff oriented music, and that's the thing I never really hear these days. It's just like good, it's a lot of pop stuff is definitely not, it's not guitar based music at all. And so I guess I stick to where the guitar is, I guess.
Yeah, you're a man after my own heart. Like,
Yeah.
this has been a topic of conversation that has been brought up in like my Facebook group and on a couple other things. And I actually was kind of one guy I kind of asked is guitar music dying, and that was kind of a podcast topic. And I've actually had some people say, can we stop talking about this? So, which is understandable. It is kind of a dead horse that's been beaten over and over again, but I feel like it's worth revisiting, for me at least, just because whenever it is brought up in a public place, I tend to discover new artists that are kind of bringing it back.
Yeah.
That's just me personally, but yeah. I don't know. So we talked about Zeppelin. So do you have any other? And Josh Homme, obviously, which I love me some Queens of the Stone Age, and oh man,
I just actually saw him play.
Do you have others?
Well, yeah, I think.
Oh, you were gonna say you just saw him play with Iggy Pop, weren't you?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you noticed that he came with Iggy. Yeah. So that was just seeing those albums, Lust for Life and The Idiot, played live, because I had those two albums in my car for that was just like the default CD, Actually, you could fit them all in one CD, which is a cool thing. Right. Shorter records, And then I heard from an interview that that album, or one of those albums, was one of the main reasons why he left Caius. I was like, wow, I mean, that's really,
I didn't
really
know
heavy.
that.
Yeah. So I don't know the extent of that, but I think he was sort of, not to get too much into his stuff, but I think, he was, he already had his thing going when he was in Caius, and I think he was just too big for that band. So,
yeah. I mean, I like Caius too, but I agree.
Yeah, so, I don't know if, I don't know how long they would have endured, with that style of music, kind of, but definitely I love Caius. But
so this is a total side, but now that you've brought it up, I really really wanted to go to that show, and it was sold out. So please do tell me how it was in as brief as you can.
It was just, it was amazing. I mean, he's like 60, right? Or no.
He's older than that. Yeah.
No, I think he's maybe 70. And it just totally showed everyone that, what he could do. You still, and I'm sure, put a lot of younger guys to shame, that were there watching. And just tight band. I mean, like the drummer from Arctic Monkeys, and and just everything. I mean, the album. I mean, they almost played like those two albums in their entirety, and stuff that I thought I'd never hear live. And he's just going crazy. It's really cool to be part of that, to witness it. But,
that's nuts. Yeah, it's just funny that you bring it up and that we're talking about it, because I was just watching for the fifth time, Rollins, Henry Rollins, when he did. I don't know if you ever seen these videos where he basically does his spoken word thing, and he talks about this time when he tried to out Iggy Pop multiple times.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't hang. And we're talking about Rollins. Rollins is no slouch. It's just it's hilarious. People should look that up. It's not for children, but it is quite funny. Let me tell you. It's funny to hear it from his perspective, but
Man, yeah. Yeah, he's definitely got some good stories. I mean, yeah, I grew up, like my sister was a little bit older, so she showed me Rollins Band and like going back to influences and stuff, and I always kind of like to mix. That's kind of what I thought if I were to do another project, a new project, it would be a sort of a mix of like I love Primus, and like that
Mm-hmm.
just playing, because it meant that you could play weird, you didn't have to stay in the same blues box, and
Yeah.
to get guitar-y, but yeah, I just don't sometimes I get kind of, like we all do, we just like we're looking for more, and and so yeah, that's kind of why I just draw from all these different influences, and like a lot of non-guitar stuff, like Gary Newman, like I just love that, like the replicas and Two Boy Army and stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
just it sounds like guitar, but it's not, it could be, and it's still like again, it's like really riffy and it's heavy and it's got awesome rhythm section and so yeah, I mean, as far as like other influences, like another sort of 70s sort of area I explored was more like early blues stuff, like Canned Heat and Buddy
Oh
Guy and
yeah. Oh,
um,
Buddy Guy, please.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, God, I mean, like there's some stuff from the '50s out there, some clips, and he's playing stuff that like you wouldn't hear until like Hendrix was doing it. It's just like really amazing. Um, so yeah, and that's stuff that I was discovering on like checking out vinyl from the library, and when growing up, and so before
Oh man.
before we had the YouTubes,
I know what
so
you're talking about, and I feel like we're dating ourselves right now.
uh,
Uh,
yeah, man. Um, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I'm and I'm under 40, so it's weird that we could talk about that like
I'm
days
on the
before the
cusp,
internet.
like of not of 40, but I'm on the
Yeah,
cusp of when that was a thing.
yeah,
Then all of a sudden it wasn't. I remember when that wasn't a thing.
uh-huh.
I don't know. Wampler always tells me I'm an old man in a young man's body, but
Yeah,
which is pretty much true. And but yeah, it's so funny that you brought that up because it kind of brought a whole bunch of memories just crashing into my head all of a sudden.
yeah. Yeah, there was this library called the Brand Library. I think it was up in L.A. My dad would actually go and just get a stack of records and just show me stuff I never even knew. Like Larry Coryell and a lot of jazz stuff, of course. And but um, yeah, there's this Canned Heat record that like really stuck with me, and it was a live album, and just like some of the craziest fuzzed out, blues kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and again, it's not, like really traditional. It's, it's kind of like, just always doing something different, so, that's kind of how I like to do things and not, that's why, I don't know, it's like hard to find, like one real style, to just stay in, like sometimes I just wish or not wish, but sometimes I would rather just play bass for the day or something,
Yes,
and
I
just,
understand.
and I do, and so that I get lucky that I get to create, backing tracks and stuff and play bass on them and do some fun stuff. So,
Nice, nice.
yeah.
So let's dig into your playing style a little bit because it's fairly unique
Oh, yeah.
as compared to the general guitar population, of which I consider myself. You, you use only your fingers, but when I try to use only my fingers, I can make I can still play the same things I would normally play with a pick,
Sure, yeah.
but yours sounds brighter and sharper, and I'm wondering how you do that.
I don't really know. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm using, I'm not really, yeah, using like the soft part of the fingers. I mean, if like, when it's people say it looks like I'm using a pick, I'm using a little bit of thumbnail in there. I can't just like bash on it the whole time, because my nail would not survive. But it's kind of like selective. It's a selective thing where, I don't always have to have that sound, on everything I'm playing. But if I just want to do a few chugs, I could do it and just interject a little bit in there. But yeah, I've never liked to pick. I mean, it just starting. Um, I'd only did maybe a year of lessons, and half the year I was trying to get out of using a pick. And I finally, my dad, he got me the lessons, and he finally had a talk with the guy. He's like, if he doesn't want to use a pick, don't, just don't get in his way, like basically convince him, if I'm paying you for the lessons, if he doesn't want to pick, then continue on without it. So. But so I just developed that style and try to do things that you guys do, I think, a lot easier. It's kind of a weird way, a convoluted way of playing, because a lot of times like obviously I couldn't, do real fast, you know, virtuoso stuff, I mean, just because you don't have the like I could kind of get away with it with the fast, picking sort of what's the word? Just the fast like flicking of the index finger,
right, yeah.
Kind of like tremolo picking, I guess that's but it's not something I could do like a whole song, So again, it's like just a little bit of fingernail just to kind of get some pick attack here and there. But for the most part, I just like playing with my fingers and also, I like playing more than one string at a time. And I think that's a big part of why I like it, because I'd like to be able to play, a bass note and a higher note at the same time, especially because that's, when I grew up playing, I didn't have a bass player. It was just me and a kid drummer, so you kind of have to play bass and guitar at the same time.
Right.
So
that's interesting, because that's the only time that I finger pick is when I have to do things that, I mean, I don't have like some sort of weird alien appendage that lets me pick more than one string at a time. So the only time I finger pick is in those situations, and I find it actually very. I gotta say, I kind of picked some of that up from watching your stuff. Like oh, I didn't know I could make sounds like that. So it's really interesting to hear you talk about it, and then like just everything that you're saying just kind of confirmed what I was thinking. Like, oh, okay, well, he's doing it for this reason, probably, but I don't know. And the thumbnail thing, I was like, I bet that's how he's doing it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And my you must have like drink a lot of milk and have a lot of calcium in you or something, because my thumbnails will blow apart before I can do some of the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe the fact that the nail survived led me to just kind of pursue that path. Yeah, maybe if I didn't have the nails for it, I would have forced myself to learn with a pick, So, but
yeah, because I inadvertently hit strings sometimes when I'm picking. I choke up really, really high on it and do a lot of downstroking because I'm a weirdo. I'll end up like busting my nail accidentally, even though I'm not finger picking. So,
oh wow, yeah.
I've seen some of the stuff you do. I'm like, how is his fingers holding up? Why is he not spraying blood all over that guitar now?
Well, it's also a touch thing, like I was hearing, reading that Billy Gibbons has like a really soft touch, and I was like, what? And he's playing with 8s and sometimes 7s, and I'm like, he can't be, that's such a heavy sound, but he's just kind of gently, brushing the strings, and it's coming out like,
oh, it's
like,
monstrous.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's another thing. Yeah, you don't always have to like really dig in there, and I find that sometimes if I'm playing acoustic, and I try to do the same thing I do on electric, I'll just get a big blister on my thumb and just have to grab a pick, because I could get away with playing with a pick with acoustic just because I'm not ever doing anything, fancy. It's just strumming. So,
right.
Yeah. So it's just it's been something I knew it was sort of a weird thing, but that I didn't realize how weird it was until other people started watching. I was kind of naive going into it, thinking that. Although a lot of times I did would throw in a pick just because especially for like lessons and stuff because I'm like, well, people aren't gonna be able to relate. So and that was actually it's kind of funny because I'm giving a lesson, but I had to like learn it first myself and with a pick. So everyone's learning in those videos. So.
Oh, that's it. That's interesting. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what's cool about doing these things is because I think people have a perception of you that you're some sort of like. Well, you mentioned that you're not a virtuoso, but like I think people have a perception of you that you are.
Oh.
And I don't know if that's cultivated, or if it's just public, just kind of gets opinion sometimes. But everyone's like, Andy just plays everything so good.
Well, there's
Yeah.
there's a thing called editing, and
Oh,
luckily I went to school for editing, or as part of it, but yeah, I mean I definitely don't do I definitely don't do everything in one take, and I learn a lot of stuff from everyone out there, sometimes it's like sometimes watching like kids play a song is really really good because that they've been instructed to do it like accurately,
right.
But I mean for the most part it's like I won't really take on something unless I'm sort of already familiar with it anyway. And it's like those songs that you've just heard forever, and so you already know how the structure of it goes. You just got to kind of get the details ironed out, and so so that's kind of to my advantage. If I was just tackling some completely different genre, or I mean, yeah, it would take a lot longer, and I'm just normal, like everyone else.
Oh, I instantly feel a little bit better about myself as a
Yeah.
guitar player. This is great.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry,
not the
Shatter.
only one. I'm not the only one who cherry picks their clips that they post on the internet. This is great. Oh wait,
Well, yeah.
everyone does that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's why, people take months and months for an album, because they're getting the good stuff out there, and that's why it's so funny. Like when Hendrix albums are still coming out, that he wouldn't approve of that stuff, like
No,
they're just
no.
digging through everything, in the bottom of the drawer, and I'm just like, still coming out with albums, huh?
Right. like this was in Jimi Hendrix's sock drawer, stuffed way back in the corner and actually locked
Yeah.
in a safe, and it said do not open, but at the same time, we're gonna go ahead and put it out there for public consumption.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, and Jimmy's just going, come on, thanks guys.
Yeah,
I
right.
contribute Little Wing, and you put out my I don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
I was trying to, like, Milli Vanilli song or something, I don't know.
Yeah, right. That's funny. But on the flip side, I bet you everything that Prince has in that vault is gold. I mean, since he was just such a perfectionist, and who knows? I mean, how many? I don't know if are we gonna see that stuff, hear that stuff? Have you?
I don't know. I was just reading this terrible article the other day about, like, I don't know. I don't want to get into the. Let's not get negative. It just sounded very not like we weren't going to hear it, and I was kind of depressed about it. So,
oh man.
Hopefully that's not true.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. So, here, let's shift gears, and I'm gonna be very, very unfair with you.
Mm-hmm.
So hope you're prepared for this question. It's gonna probably make you go, I don't know. I played more pedals than anyone. To date, what is you like? I was gonna say one, but let's make it not quite so mean. To date, what are your favorite top 3 pedals that you've played, or maybe it doesn't have to be of all time, but ones that come to your brain?
Let's see. Well, I'm kind of biased on this one, but because I kind of had a hand in the sounds of it, which is that alter ego delay.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I was able to like take like I love echoplexes. I mean, I've probably had a dozen of them, and it's only that number because they always break,
Right.
And so I took, one that's currently working, and I was able to like get really close. I mean, as close as software will allow, and so yeah, and that's like one of the first pedals that made me go, wow, I have an alternative for once.
Right.
So yeah, I mean that's definitely one of them. And I would just say any kind of like fuzz face in general, because I love fuzz. I think you can never have
Oh.
enough fuzz.
Oh, please come over
Yeah.
to my house.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Yeah. Just and well, I got lucky and was able to score a 69 fuzz when I was at Full Tone, and I was
Mm-hmm.
able to pick my own NKTs. Actually, one of them's like NKT and one of them's a different one because they were running low at that point. But I like it, and so that really set me on that path of a nice germanium fuzz face that will act like an overdrive if you clean up,
Yeah.
and that's like something I never really, and I'm sure a lot of people that say they don't like fuzz, they probably haven't experienced a great, and it doesn't have to be germanium, but just a great versatile fuzz that'll respond, to changes in volume, and clean up some, like a lot of fuzzes with a lot of gain, or more components than you need will not clean up as much because they're trying to do a lot. They're trying to clip and do all these other things, and but yeah, that's so definitely fuzz face, and I'm trying to think of something in a different category.
It can be whatever you want.
Yeah.
It
Well,
are like the expert in this field right now. So
yeah, this is tricky because like yeah, I want people to just and it
you can do favorites and notables. That would be
yeah.
acceptable in this case.
Well, I have to say that just any kind of like light overdrive that because I'm a fan of amp overdrive first of all, so um yeah, man, I'm a Marshall guy, or more, I'd say more of an EL34 guy in
Okay.
general, because most of my amps have those, but I have old Orange that I've had forever, and but I'd say more recently, in actually finding some great Marshalls that I'm more of a Marshall guy, but so anyway, so like for overdrive, I think there's a lot to be said for just a good solid low gain overdrive, or just just a really nice clean boost, like what Petty John is doing, and just real,
Oh yeah.
like studio quality stuff. Something that's not gonna get in the way of your amp, but a lot of times your amp just needs a little bit more, and you don't want to add all this, diode clipping and stuff, and it's different for everyone's amp, so obviously, but so and then so yeah, so something like the RC booster, which is kind of an
Oh
underrated
yes.
pedal,
I agree. That is a
and that
very
yeah.
underrated pedal.
Yeah, and the fact that it's got an active EQ, which I mean, there's still overdrives every year that come out, and they don't even do that, actually their BB preamp, I'm a fan of,
Mm-hmm.
because my main overdrive, still is an old Marshall Bluesbreaker pedal, and that is like I'm not really using that for a lot of gain, but it's just something that always just kind of agreed with Marshalls and the Orange, which is even more picky.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I guess like if I had to narrow down an overdrive, and this is good for me because they don't. I mean, there's no one really reissuing this one yet. So I'd say the Marshall, the Bluesbreaker, is definitely the first overdrive on my list.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I love phasers too. I mean, I have probably more fuzzes and phasers than anything, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I just like the first one I got was actually a Phase 45, and I got rid of it. That was the one that got away, and it was a Script logo.
Oh no.
And I was like, I wanted the phase on the Rover, and all this other stuff, and it was too subtle for me, and so I traded in for a Phase 90, and then I wish I would have kept the 45, but luckily
Yeah.
they've brought them back a few
Right.
years. But and then I just kind of like that subtle squishiness and univibe stuff, But so again, I'm not giving you favorites, but I really any univibe with actual photocells in it is all right with me. I've had one of the first Voodoo Lab microvibes that
Uh-huh.
it didn't even have an LED on it, and I did change out the DC jack on it because it was the other kind, like the DoD style.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that was like my favorite vibe forever, and I don't know if it had to do with being an older one where they're the circuit boards were different back then. So yeah, basically everything Hendrix played I like.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
You stole the line right out of my mouth. I was like, it really
Yeah.
sounds like you just like want all Hendrix pedals. That's really interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, but and then the Echoplex is in there, so it's a little bit
Little
different
Gilmore.
page. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've really kept it simple as far as my favorites and stuff, and I mean, I definitely like like octave pedals but I just found like playing live, like just less is more, and like I always just can get away with playing it with maybe a fuzz, a wah, and a delay or something, and then if your amp is getting you overdrive, then you don't need an overdrive, and you could just do a lot right there.
Yeah. So I've never gotten, well, that doesn't really count. I've never gotten to play an actual Echoplex, and it like hurts my heart, like badly.
Yeah.
I
Man,
want one so bad.
It's amazing that you could still find them. Well, actually, maybe the past year, because I'm still looking. I'm always trying to find that deal, but I don't think I've ever overpaid. Paid over $400 or $500 for one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just because I'm just always looking, and sometimes you could get them where people don't really know what's wrong with them, and they sell it without the tape, and so score, you just get a tape
Right,
and
right.
clean the heads, and or if you have to do a cap job on it, it's not an arm and a leg. It's still cheaper than buying a minty one for $1,200, which is kind of what they're going for, maybe 9 to 12 these days, which is unbelievable. Especially
Yeah.
considering the maintenance and everything. And I don't think even Eric Johnson's using his Echoplexes anymore. I think he's moved on.
Do you know what he's moved on to? Because that would be interesting.
I think he was using the Bell Epoch, or I think that's what I heard. Yeah, and I think he's still, I'm not really, hip on what he's doing these days. But
Right.
But knowing Catlin and stuff being in town, that I think they mentioned that. So
Well, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I when you gave me those prices, my jaw kind of like hit the floor because I'm like used to looking at like 7 to 9 is like on the cheap side, and I'm like, I can't do that. I want to do it so bad, but I can't quite do it.
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of need to at some point, because the fact that I've tried some like homemade like jankety things as far as real tape delay goes.
Oh yeah.
And they were really, really cool, but I feel like to complete my proper gearhead education, I got to try a real Echoplex. It's just kind of obscene.
It's kind of an eye opener, because I think a lot of people, just from what the designs that are out there that are supposed to emulate tape. I think a lot of them don't really get it right, because it's actually a very bright delay. It's almost as bright as digital. It's definitely not as dark as an analog delay. I mean, it has it's tape. It has a really good fidelity for the first few repeats. And then depending on how old your one, they all sound different too. Like I have a couple that are kind of darker than the ones I've had in the past. But in general, and like when I was doing the alter ego thing, I made sure that the bottom kind of slowly drops out rather
Mm-hmm.
than, I mean, and then the top does too. But the big part of that sort of like real crystally sound is that the bottom, every repeat, the bottom is just slowly going away, but you could still hear the repeats clearly, and that's key, I think. And then of course getting the right modulation, from the pinch roller always being, kind of worn, and the tape not being wound maybe as it should be or something, and
Right.
you have all these parts that are like a true, like a Echoplex probably perfectly tuned, hardly has any modulation. I think people probably wouldn't want that, you know.
Right.
It's just a little bit, yeah. You might even think it sounds like a digital delay or something. So, um, but yeah, it's definitely it's a cool thing, and the preamp. It's funny because I never really paid attention to the Echoplex preamp, because it's not a boost, it's like it's a buffer, but it's only when they started coming out with the pedals that put the preamp in there that they started adding a little bit more oomph, but it's not a huge, like it's not a huge bump in gain, it's just, I mean, it definitely changes the feel, with some compression, and there's definitely some coloring going on, but
Right.
yeah, it's funny. I never really thought that. Wow, how come when I play Echoplex, there's so much more gain? It's that never occurred to me. But maybe just because I always played through, Marshall style amps, that maybe it got kind of
Right.
maybe it got kind of buried. Who knows? Yeah, but yeah, I always thought that was kind of funny. Like, what? Why would you want the preamp? It's just.
Yeah.
But and, in the Dunlop reissue too, I think is very true, to the Echoplex, because it doesn't really push a lot. It's not like some of the other ones. So I think they actually went a real accurate route with that preamp.
That's really
So
interesting. I,
yeah.
I just had another thing click in my brain when you were talking about, like, obviously you've mentioned the Marshalls multiple times throughout this
Oh.
this conversation, but
Yeah.
it just kind of clicked in my brain. Wait a second, I'm used to Andy playing through a deluxe reverb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. Well,
And
I mean,
I think I know why, but go ahead and
yeah.
tell everybody why.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, how would you know whether the overdrive, especially if it was like a light overdrive, how would you know that's the pedal or the amp, and that's one reason, and then like we wanted to just keep it very consistent, so you could just be, so it could be really subjective, or just like if you hear one overdrive through the amp, you could really know that, oh yeah, that's the pedal doing that, and then you click over
Mm-hmm.
another video, and yeah, same amp, so it's a different sound. It must be the pedal. And yeah, I mean, and it was kind of a learning experience for me too, because I've never been a clean amp guy. I mean, I've had some Fenders, and I always just ended up wanting to get drive out of it naturally.
Right.
um, and so, but yeah, I mean, it's turned out to be a really, man, such a reliable amp, and just such a versatile thing for being a 20-watt amp. But yeah, I mean, it gets, if you were to take it on stage, unless you had, maybe an extension cab or, really great mic setup, that, I've never found that a 112 is enough for me. Especially, I guess it depends on how loud your drummer is, but I've always, so like, yeah, it would have to maybe be the the deluxe and an extension cab or something for me to be able to play that live.
Right.
Yeah.
So this this is kind of another aside, but we are getting semi close to the end. Actually, I mean, I could go all night if you would like. Like, we could go till the sun comes up, and that'd be okay with
Yeah.
me. You might as well just hop in the car, and drive on
Yeah.
over with the
All
couple
right.
Echoplexes. I got plenty of fuzz. We can run through these
Yeah,
things.
it's all
Like,
right, man.
but I was kind of just thinking, like, what do you anticipate the future of, not just kind of, I mean, you play all kinds of effects. That's why I have to ask you this.
Hmm.
what do you see coming down the pipeline that you think is going to be kind of a game changer? And you don't have to tell me about any secret prototype things that you know about that no one's supposed to know, but are there certain companies or certain styles of product that you think will just be kind of blowing up here pretty soon?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I could name any specific company because I'm sure everyone's got some really cool, because the age we're living in, that you could do so many great emulations, like that Bell Epoch, it's like wow,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've really got the sound of that, and yeah, I mean, just personally, I think it's really cool to mix digital control and analog circuits, and I just
Chase Bliss.
yeah, well, and I mean even before that, to go back to TC, and they had that Nova
Oh,
drive, which I
yes.
don't really think was a real hot ticket, but you
Okay,
could
hold
control it
on. We
with
gotta, we
yeah.
gotta, we gotta stop this train. We have to stop this train right now because this is gonna be hilarious to you,
Yeah,
or I don't know, hilarious. You're not. It's not like you're watching Louis C.K. or something,
yeah,
but
it's hilarious.
it's so funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. That was one of the first uh, drive pedals I bought,
Oh,
and it
really?
was and I mean I bought a TS9 and a couple other things, but like that was very like early on in the collection, and it was based on your demo, and I still own that
Hmm.
thing, and I still say how that is a extremely underrated pedal to this
Definitely.
day. After everything I've played, I think that the Nova
Yeah.
Drive is so versatile and so underrated.
Oh, of course. I mean, and the fact that you could save presets, and if you're into MIDI, I mean, that's another thing. You're asking about the future. It's like, I always hated MIDI growing
Yeah,
up because when you thought of it, you thought of that guy with the full rack of 80s gear and it was just gross,
yeah,
but now, and especially with like sampling, because I love, like really, like VST instruments and stuff, like really great samples of like, like think of it, if I could sample a mellotron with my guitar via MIDI,
yeah.
and like the
Mm-hmm.
actual mellotron tapes, that are digitized, and so yeah, I mean, I think yeah, I think that there's a real big future there, um, and yeah, the digital control. I mean, you have in that pedal, you have a what is it, a rat and a tube screamer ish,
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah,
So I mean,
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
such a huge range, and then yeah, I think that there's a lot of I mean, yeah, there's just so many possibilities that no one's really grabbed yet.
and then a clean blend. It also has a clean blend.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's that
yeah.
I'm frustrated that pedal isn't selling out the door. I know that TC's doing just fine,
Uh-huh,
but like
yeah.
I that pedal is so underrated to me, and you can do so much with it, and I am shocked that it didn't do better than it did.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it could just be, yeah, the digital still scares a lot of people, and but man, it shouldn't after what's been coming out, I mean, even since like the Line 6 days, or early days, like with the DL4. I mean, that was a real eye opener for me. Hearing that, that pedal, and I was like, okay, they're getting there, So, uh, yeah, that's
Right.
that's my take on what's happening in the
What's
future.
happening? What's
Yeah,
happening or happened like 5
yeah,
years ago,
yeah, yeah,
and
exactly.
nobody caught on to it.
Yeah, I know. That's always how it is, Yeah, that's there's always that delay. Yeah, no pun intended. But
Right. Do you think that that's something that's kind of like inherent in guitar players as in general? Like we seem to be really
yeah,
unaccepting of new things sometimes. That's not a
yeah,
general rule. It's only sometimes that we're unaccepting of new things.
yeah. I mean, I guess yeah, we have our favorites, I mean, even in a world that we didn't, in like, let's say like the Stradivarius and all that whole world too, they have their, there's tradition, and that basically you could just sum it up that way. There's a
Mm-hmm.
tradition that people don't want to abandon, and for good reason, and uh, I think it is. But until somebody does something really creative with like like with something new, like Tom Morello or something, where like the whammy. I remember just it was. Yeah, I remember playing one at an old music store growing up, and it was sitting on collecting dust, and I was like, oh, I'll just play with this whammy, and uh, and then I don't know, maybe like 4 years later that he was doing his thing with Rage, and everyone wanted a whammy. So it's like, yeah, I think it takes the right person to kind of show what new stuff can do.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
So, since this episode won't be coming out until next week,
Mm.
why don't you, if you can, I don't know, this might be a little, we're getting to the end. That's the only reason I do it.
Okay.
And I normally at this juncture, I would say, like, try to plug your stuff. But
Oh.
everyone kind of already knows your stuff. So it's kind of,
Yeah, just keep watching. I don't know.
yeah, keep watching
Yeah.
Andy at ProGuitarShop.com. Like, there you go.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. So where I was going to go with this is, like, what's on the bench right now that'll be dropping late next week that you can kind of say is pretty cool, or
Well,
whatever your feelings are on it.
well, I mean, actually, it's kind of weird timing. I mean, they just we were finally able to release the MXR Reverb, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, so that just came out today, so everyone will have already seen it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty huge because that's their first digital pedal. They've always been
Mm-hmm.
analog, and so yeah, going back to the whole digital thing, I mean, it's like everyone knows that you gotta eventually go there, and yeah, it's I think George Tripp's had his hands in there,
Oh,
and
interesting.
yeah, and it's really, I mean, yeah, blew me away, and especially just the spring. Like they said they couldn't leave it, they couldn't let it leave unless it had a really convincing spring, and they definitely did it. It's got the boing, so, and then if you want the shimmer stuff, it's really a cool take on that. It's not just trying to copy the shimmer thing. It's in true MXR fashion. They do their own thing, so yeah, so I mean it's kind of late now, but I think that's definitely one of the coolest things to have come out. And then I mean, I'm sure there's going to be more because we got, Summer NAMM coming, and
Mm-hmm.
there's always something cool, which is great. It keeps me busy. So,
There you go.
yeah.
All right. Well, I think that the fans of the Tone Mob podcast would roast me alive if I didn't ask you this question.
All right.
This will be the last question, and it's not. We agreed to not do anything too hard hitting, but I mean, let's be honest. This is
All right.
pretty personal.
All right.
So, Mr. Andy Martin, what is your favorite pizza?
Oh, man, that's tough. You know why? Because
I do know why, because you live in Portland. Yeah.
yeah, that's a really interesting, yeah. But it used to be pepperoni, no questions asked. But these days I'm trying to lay off all those what are those nitrates? Those things that get you.
They will? Don't tell me that. I don't want to hear that.
And my wife's a vegetarian, so
Oh,
it's like inevitable
well,
that I'm gonna be just be that in a few
yeah.
years.
Well, I'm thinking of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But okay, so I'll give you an answer though. I mean, I think if it has to be an answer, I'm just gonna go cheese, man. Sometimes too much
Ooh.
is too much, or a little bit is too much. So can't go wrong.
Oh man, you and Paul Reed Smith have something in common.
Oh really?
Yeah. Yeah, he likes a cheese pizza himself.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's not
Yeah.
bad company to be in.
Yeah, definitely. I'll take that.
Nice. All right. Well, you know what? That has actually brought us right to the hour mark.
All right. Yeah, it didn't feel like it. That was
No,
fun.
it's usually easier than most people anticipate. It's it's like, oh, really? I didn't realize. But yeah, we're right at that hour mark, and really, really glad we were finally able to do this.
Yeah, me too.
I think that we got a lot of nuggets out of there, and now that I know you're as big of a fuzz fiend as I am,
yeah,
we're gonna have to make things meet up at some point.
yeah, definitely, yeah, and yeah, I mean that's the great thing about fuzz is that there's always just some new twist on it. It's like there's never enough. Yeah,
Never enough fuzz. Well, I feel like that's a pretty good place to leave it. But I normally do a little outro piece here, where I say something. But I feel like if you put on your demo guy hat for a second, it'll be better.
Sure.
It'll be much better if you do it. Is that cool?
Yeah. What do you want me to say?
Okay. So, if you could say, so normally it would be backwards from this, but if you could say, for Blake Weiland, I'm Andy Martin, and as always, good luck and good tones. That would make my whole day.
Okay. For Blake Weiland, I'm Andy Martin, and as always, good luck and good tones. Thanks for listening.
Yes, finally. So glad to put that episode out for you guys. That was really fun, and it's been on the books for a while, so really glad we were able to get that out there for you. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, because Andy was a real treat to talk to. So I just want to leave you with this one last quick thought. I know I keep teasing things, and I'm just a horrible person for doing that, but I really mean it this time. It's so close I can taste it. The secret project that I keep kind of hemming and hawing over, it's really finally a reality. And if you want to know about it first, make sure you head over to tonemob.com and join the mob, join the mailing list. That is where all the juicy details are going to get shared. So Stage 1 is going to be dropping really soon, and you're going to want to be a part of it. So thanks for listening, as always. Don't forget to tell your friends, and I'll talk to you next time. One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.